The evacuation shuttle's interior hummed with the desperate energy of 100 different species fleeing the Krozeth invasion. Evan Cole sat pressed against the cold metal wall, his small hands clutching a worn photograph of his father, the only thing he'd managed to grab before the soldiers dragged him from their burning colony. He was 7 years old, and everything he'd ever known was ash. Across the cramped compartment, something whimpered. Not the scared human kind of whimper Evan had heard from other children, but something deeper, more resonant. It made his chest vibrate. Through the forest of legs and emergency supply crates, Evan spotted it. A creature no bigger than himself, huddled in the corner. Its scales shimmered between violet and deep crimson, and its eyes, slitted like a cat's, leaked luminescent tears that pooled on the floor like spilled mercury at a Sirathi. A dragon child. The other refugees gave it wide berth, their fear palpable. The Galactic Council had only accepted the Sirathi into the Civilized Species Registry 3 cycles ago, and old prejudices died hard. Dragons were monsters, the stories said. Destroyers of worlds. Never mind that this one was clearly just a child. Alone and terrified, Evan's father's voice echoed in his memory, soft and warm like it had been during their last breakfast together. Broken things deserve compassion, son. Not because they'll be useful when fixed, but because compassion is what makes us human. The shuttle lurched as it cleared the planet's gravity well. The dragon child sobbed harder, clutching something in its clawed hands, a toy of some kind, Evan realized. A mechanical star that probably once glowed and spun. Now it hung in 2 pieces, connected by a tangle of wires. Evan stood up. His mother would have stopped him, but she was 3 systems away on a medical station, probably not even knowing yet that their world had fallen. The other adults were too lost in their own trauma to notice a small boy navigating through the crowd. He sat down next to the dragon child without asking permission. The creature's head snapped toward him, eyes wide with surprise and fear. Up close, Evan could see that its scales were duller than they should be, some cracked and peeling. Malnourished, probably. Refugees from the outer reaches often were. That's broken, Evan said, pointing at the toy. The dragon child, Syrinx, he would later learn, pulled the toy closer to its chest protectively. A low rumble started in its throat. Not quite a growl, more like a frightened purr. I'm not going to take it, Evan said quickly. He held up his empty hands. I might be able to fix it. My dad taught me how to fix things. Syrinx's crying quieted to hiccuping sniffles. Its head tilted, processing. Humans hurt Sirathi, it said in heavily accented galactic common, each word carefully formed around a mouth not designed for them. Some humans hurt everybody, Evan replied, thinking of the Krozeth soldiers who'd killed his father. That doesn't mean we all do. He pulled a small multi-tool from his pocket. His father's multi-tool, pressed into his hands in those final moments. See? Tools for fixing, not hurting. Slowly, with visible reluctance, Syrinx extended its clawed hands. The broken star rested in its palms, pathetic and dark. Evan took it gently. This close, he could smell the dragon child, like heated stone and cinnamon. Not unpleasant, just different. He examined the toy, tracing the damaged circuits with fingers his father had taught to be patient and precise. This connector here is just loose, he murmured, more to himself than to Syrinx. And this wire got pulled out, but the soldering point is still good. Father made it, Syrinx whispered. Before the raiders came. Before, the dragon child didn't finish. It didn't need to. Evan understood intimately the weight of that unfinished sentence. My father made things too, Evan said, carefully twisting wires back into place. He said that when we make things, we put a piece of ourselves into them. So even when people go away, the things they made remember them. Syrinx's eyes widened. Your father also? Yeah. They sat in shared silence, 2 orphans from different worlds, bound by identical wounds. Evan worked methodically, the way his father had taught him. Tighten this. Realign that. The toy was elegant in its simplicity, a child's nightlight, designed to project constellations. Human engineering would have made it more complex. Sirathi design favored beauty and function in equal measure. There, Evan said finally, clicking the 2 halves back together. Try it now. Syrinx took the toy with trembling claws and pressed the activation node. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then light bloomed, soft and golden, painting the ceiling with swirling stars and patterns Evan didn't recognize. Sirathi constellations. Dragon myths written in light. Syrinx made a sound between a laugh and a sob. It works. You fixed it. My dad always said broken things deserve compassion. Evan said, handing back his multi-tool to his pocket. Not because they'll definitely get fixed, but because compassion it's what we're supposed to do. Not all species believe this, Syrinx said, watching the stars dance. Many think broken things should be discarded, replaced. Then they're wrong. A human woman nearby finally noticed Evan, her face twisting with concern and disapproval. Child, get away from that creature. They're dangerous. Evan looked up at her, then at Syrinx, who had begun to curl inward again, ashamed. Something fierce ignited in Evan's chest, the same defiance his father had shown when he'd stayed behind to buy time for others to escape. No, Evan said clearly. Syrinx isn't dangerous. Syrinx is my friend. The woman sputtered. Other passengers turned to look. Evan felt their judgment, their fear, their ancient prejudices. But he also felt Syrinx's small clawed hand slip into his, trembling but trusting that a Vothari observer, its crystalline form refracting the toy's light, spoke up in its chiming voice. The human child shows wisdom beyond his years. Perhaps we all might learn from his example. The tension broke. Not completely. Generations of fear wouldn't dissolve in a moment, but enough. The woman backed away, uncomfortable but unwilling to challenge the Vothari's implied rebuke. Syrinx's grip on Evan's hand tightened. Thank you, the dragon child whispered. That's what friends do, Evan replied. They sat together for the rest of the journey, the mechanical star casting constellation shadows over both of them. Evan told Syrinx about his father, about the colony, about the garden they'd kept and the machines they'd fixed together. Syrinx told Evan about the Sirathi home clusters, about flying through nebulae, about the songs dragons sang to stars point, two children, two species, two broken hearts finding compassion in each other. When the shuttle finally docked at Sanctuary Station, they emerged hand in hand. The processing officers looked confused, a human and a Sirathi, together, inseparable. They tried to direct them to separate areas, different species appropriate housing. To Syrinx's hand tightened in Evan's. The toy star glowed softly between them. No, Evan said, with all the quiet steel his father had taught him. We stay together. The officer opened his mouth to argue, saw something in the little human's eyes, something ancient and immovable, and simply nodded. In the years that would follow, Evan Cole and Syrinx would become symbols of something the galaxy desperately needed, proof that compassion could bridge any divide. They would grow up together in the refugee centers, would eventually join the Restoration Corps, would spend their lives fixing what war had broken, machines, homes, hearts. But in that moment, they were simply two children who understood that broken things, broken toys, broken lives, broken species, all deserve the same thing, compassion, because that's what made them human, and that's what made them dragon, and that's what made them more than either alone could ever be.